Welcome to another episode of Investing in Intellectual Property with Dave. Today, we have a very special guest with us. This gentleman has created his own gourmet cookie company, which from personal experience is amazing. Please welcome Kartez Jones. How's it going, Cartez? Let me add you here. Oh, man. There we go. How is it going?
It's going great. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. I appreciate you giving me some time here this morning. And I know I was showing you beforehand, but I want to show the audience the packaging on this thing is amazing as well. I know you and I were talking a little bit beforehand or maybe last week about how people like to give the cookies as guests to, just professionals like to give it to guests to maybe people they're doing deals with and things like that. And I can see that, especially looking at this packaging, man. It's amazing. And just kind of just for everybody to think that it's not empty cookies in here.
Yeah, I didn't see the point of having a meeting and you couldn't actually have the experience of the cookies. I thought it'd go a lot better that way.
No, for sure. And I guess I'll maybe get off it because I had the key lime coconut. I got to do one at a time here. I was thinking about, man, do I do 2, 3? But I'm like, that may not be such a good idea. So I'll just do the. No, right, I got to spread it out. So I guess maybe just for the audience, can you describe a little bit just the product? Obviously, it's cookies. But from personal experience, I mean, obviously having a cookie yesterday, I can tell a store-bought cookie as opposed to like a gourmet cookie or a cookie that's been. And obviously, all cookies have been made from scratch, but a gourmet cookie as opposed to maybe a store-bought cookie, whether you're in Walmart or Meijer here in the Michigan area, or just Sam's Club, Costco. Again, the cookie those cookies are good, so I don't want to knock those cookies at all. But I mean, definitely having this cookie, gourmet cookies, you can tell a big difference. So can you maybe describe a little bit the product?
Yeah, they have the place. So I mean, I started off making cookies just for fun. I've always been a chef, but making cookies was something just a little personal I did with my grandmother growing up, and I brought them into where I was working one day and people really liked them, and just kind of one thing kind of start rolling into another. So as far as like a gourmet cookie, I would say some of the differences, you look at it from a different standpoint. So like, for instance, I remember someone was surprised when I had sea salt, in my cookies, and I had to remind them, even like with cooking, not exactly the same thing. Baking is more of a science, but even with cooking, salt is an enhancer and enhances whatever flavor's there. So, it's little things like that, and I kind of make my cookies the way I like. So all my cookies are usually soft instead of crispy or hard. Nothing wrong with that. I've had some good hard cookies, but these are kind of like soft and there are certain different touches in them. Like I may use, giving all my secrets here, but I use vanilla bean paste a lot.
Okay.
And we just like, what's the difference with that? So within that, you have like the vanilla bean flakes that actually in there, you can actually see it. It's a little bit thicker, and it's just little small things like that bring the extra flavor. So I always say, make it worth the calories.
No, right, exactly. No, that's interesting. And I was going to say, just kind of showing here a little bit, I guess, to the camera here. We got I think that's a chocolate chunk here.
Yeah.
The chewy oatmeal. And then we have an oatmeal golden raisin, which is pretty interesting. And then you have which I think this is interesting as well, the cookies and cream. So I guess I was going to ask you, I agree with you. I'm a big like soft cookie person as well. I'm not like hard cookies should be banned. Just use it's like if I want a cookie, I want to be able to chew it and savor all the taste and things like that, as opposed to having a bite and kind of chew real hard and maybe try not to break my teeth. Do you get, out of curiosity, do you get a lot of feedback in terms of whether people like hard cookies or soft cookies? Or I know you said you do soft cookies as you prefer it, but does the customer base give you feedback in terms of, hey, can you come out with a harder cookie? Is that like a thing?
Nah, I've never heard that.
Okay.
Actually, one of the most surprising things I usually get is I usually get more conversions of anything. I used to get people that say things like with the key lime, even with myself, I'm not usually a coconut fan, but I really like this cookie. Or I'm not usually an oatmeal fan, but I really like this cookie. So that's kind of like that's a normal response I get a lot.
No, and I think that's I guess a good indicator of how good the cookies are. I know when I opened the pack, I had the key lime because that was essentially the first cookie I saw. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go with the first one. And I like key lime. However, and the coconut can be hit or miss for me at times, so I wasn't sure what to expect when I ate it. But I'm like, man, this is a good cookie, nice and soft, and it was just the right amount of coconut. So I guess with all these flavors, how did you come up with the different flavors? I know I talked a little bit about the oatmeal, the chocolate chunk, the cookies and cream. We had the key lime. I think I was seeing that you had maybe a red velvet. I'm not sure if you still have that, but I guess how do you decide the different flavors? Is it based on customer feedback? I know earlier you said, hey, I try to kind of put out what I would like or what I like. So how do you decide on what flavors that you come up with?
There's been a lot of customer feedback. So originally I just started off with the oatmeal, or I'm going to say the classics. You're kind of almost forced to do the classics, which would be an oatmeal, the chocolate chip cookie. And so I really kind of strive to try to differentiate my cookie between other cookies with that. But the other stuff, just feedback from other people. Like the key lime, one of my best friends and his wife, they really like lime and coconut. They go to the Caribbean a lot. So, and they asked him to do a key lime cookie. And I said, that's stupid. I'm not going to do that. Nobody wants the key lime cookie. But I just kind of experimented around, looked around, and I was like, actually, this is not bad. So,
nice.
I'm same thing like you right now. Like I said, I think one of my favorite authors, he said, everybody needs a good cookie every now and then.
I like that.
Every now and then. And, so I'm an advocate for sharing the cookies, but you can't eat all of them at once.
Right.
But even right now, I'm working on a protein cookie.
Yeah.
And because I go to the gym and they're asking me for cookies, but they want a protein cookie. So I'm experimenting, and, it's feedback like that kind of pushes me to try something new.
And that's interesting because going off of the protein cookie, it seems like if you can have some type of dessert that's high in protein, it almost helps out. I know maybe several months ago I had on a podcast too. They were students of Michigan State University. They've dropped out of the original college they were at and end up kind of enrolling into Michigan State University, particularly for their product. But they have a ice cream that's called Protein Pints. It's high in protein and lower in calories.
I like that.
It seems like, and one of the guys, he said, yeah, I pretty much eat it every day, which I think goes to show you as far as, like you said, having these dessert options that are higher in protein. I'm not sure how lower in calories you can get. It seems like at least on the ice cream side of things, they were able to have the calories lower compared to other types of ice cream. But that's actually pretty cool that, giving that feedback, going into the lab and trying to get some type of cookie that's higher in protein. And again, I'm not sure if you can kind of modify or keep track of the calorie count a little bit more, but I think that's actually a pretty cool idea.
Yeah, it kind of a lot of that comes later in the process. Right now, I'm just in the process of trying out different ingredients and seeing what works, because I get different requests from vegans, I get different requests from people like that, but I'm not going to put anything out that I don't love. So
right, for sure. I like that.
It has some integrity to it. It's like even with the protein cookie, like I'm doing research. I'm using what's the best sugar alternative? So I'm using agave, and then I'm using acorn flour, which
nice.
Is like a better flour. It's the flour they used to have before the flour we have now that makes us fat. But anyway, like you said, it comes from usually outside requests.
And I guess kind of building off like the outside requests, like you said, at the beginning, you have to go with, the usuals, the oatmeals, the chocolate chip, things like that. But then how do you balance between expanding, but not expanding too quickly? Because you want to kind of perfect the originals and kind of make sure those are kind of flying off the shelf, so to speak. But then at the same time, you also kind of want to expand the product line from time to time. So how do you kind of balance that personally?
Honestly, I have scaled back. I have found at one point I was doing a little bit too much, and so I'll do some things like seasonal. So I've done. I had a Christmas cookie I did recently. I have one cookie I do every year around Valentine's, and that's it, because it's actually a lot of work. It's good, but it's too much. And yeah, just that. But even now, I'm working on a project for cookie dough, and one of the things I'm doing is I'm just focusing on one specific cookie for that, and then make that work.
Got you. Okay, no, that makes sense. And I guess we kind of touched on it a little bit with the protein cookies. It seems like these days, I know I kind of do these Shark Tank breakdown episodes where I break down the Shark Tank pitch from an intellectual property perspective attorney, just kind of being an almost 10-year IP attorney. And one of the recent episodes, it had, I think it was a bakery. I think it was like Go Nowhere or Nowhere Bakery, I think is the name of it. And they were obviously cookies, but they did other things as well, brownies and stuff like that. But it was like a health conscious bakery. Seems like these days, and I'm not saying it's a bad idea to be kind of conscious in terms of what you're putting into your body. Do you get a lot of questions or, hey, maybe come out with a healthier cookie? I think I saw something that at one point you had a vegan cookie. I'm not sure if that's still the case, but do you maybe take that into consideration? I mean, again, I understand there's cookies and there's dessert and this. At some point, you have to understand, hey, man, this is a dessert. This is not like we're making a healthy hamburger or a healthy, entree. It's still a dessert. But do you maybe try to be conscious of like the health aspect of that in terms of using maybe one ingredients or the other? And then one of the things that I also kind of found out is just because it's healthier doesn't mean it's lower in calories. You can have some more healthier options that's higher in calories. So I guess, is that something that you think about as relates to the healthy cookie or the healthier option cookie?
I do. Look, in all transparency, if you saw some of my pictures when I first started making cookies, I look completely different because I was tasting all the cookies. Every time I made the cookie, I was like, let me do a taste cookie. Right. I don't need a taste cookie every time, but I do get requests. I do have a vegan cookie, and you're right. For the most part, technically, it's healthier because it's vegan. Like I wouldn't say technically it's healthier, but calories, there's still a lot of calories in it. There's a different type of sugar in it, but a lot of times you're right. So that's why when I'm working on the protein cookie right now, I'm working on it from that, I guess, a healthier standpoint, trying to see, what can I use instead of this processed sugar, things like that. Something that the body recognizes. And even, like I say, even with the flour and the oats and working on different proteins, because proteins actually bake differently. I would say I consider that. It's not really, but it's not really my lane. So I'll add that piece in, like the vegan here and there, and then this protein cookie. And we'll see what happens going forward. But it's not my lane. Which is why I think and I didn't come up on this model, but majority of my orders are actually gifts to other people.
Right. No, and that, like I said, that would make sense because, again, given the packaging and the cookies are good cookies. It's, if I wanted to try to, woo over maybe a customer or a prospective client, I would have no problem giving a box of cookies that is going to separate. I mean, the packaging is phenomenal, and then the taste of it, the look of it, the feel of it is going to be something that stands out to the point where I wouldn't even be surprised if after that the person who received the gift,
that's usually what happens,
will come back to you like, hey, man, I need another box of those cookies, such and such gave them to me as a gift, and these were amazing. I want to either give it as a gift to someone else, or I want to kind of buy them for myself. I can see that happening all day.
Yeah, that's actually what happens a lot. It's like this chain reaction. So, it's interesting. Like, think about this. Like, if, like, even me personally, you probably wouldn't buy yourself a box of cookies. It's a lot, but if somebody said, he sent you a box and said, David, thanks, I appreciate whatever, our meeting, or I appreciate you doing this for my family, or whatever it is, you'd feel like you got permission to have a cookie. You wouldn't be rude like that. And if it's delicious, that's even a cherry on top, and you probably share. But so you're kind of giving someone permission to do something they wouldn't do for themselves if you give them a box of cookies as a gift.
And for whatever reason, I hadn't thought about it like that. But again, as we're talking it out, and I know we were talking about it last week, that would make perfect sense. Not only as a person eating the cookies, but also, just feeling good about eating the cookies because they were bought as a gift. You don't want to take them for granted or let them go to waste. And so I guess maybe transitioning a little bit, as an intellectual property attorney, it's always a kind of a give or take or push or pull with me in terms of, because when you think of like Coca-Cola, they have a trade secret on the Coca-Cola formula. Obviously, you're given the ingredients on the actual can of what's in there, but you're not necessarily kind of maybe showing the secret sauce as far as how it's made. And obviously, we have had a lot of, I guess, Coke, drinks, but they're not the Coca-Cola. And it seems like these days with like TikTok and Instagram, you see a lot more people like doing cooking shows or cooking channels or kind of showing how they make something, not just getting the ingredients or whatnot, but actually showing you how to make it. How was that played out as far as somebody saying, "Hey, I saw your videos and I was trying to make the cookie and I was able to do it successfully," or like, do you worry about that in terms of, okay, not necessarily putting you out of business, but in terms of people being able to make it and therefore not buying from you, or is that not something that you think about?
I ain't really worried about it. I mean, I did think about that at first, but I'll show how I make the cookies, the process, or just show it, and that's good for the camera. But for the most part, like there's some main cookies that I'm doing things with in the background, like the oatmeal cookie. I'll never give that recipe out. It took me a while to come up with that, and I haven't tasted anything like it. But I mean, and even then, most people, even if I gave you all my recipes, versus you making the cookies or buying the cookies and sending them to someone, what are you going to do? So.
No, yeah, and that makes sense. Unless you're about to, trying to start like a cookie company, I guess at that point,
that's
maybe
true.
like, okay,
I'm trying to start a cookie company. Yeah, maybe. But I think that's why building up a brand is so important as well.
No, for sure, absolutely. And I guess kind of going off into building a brand. Before we get off into like the intellectual property part of it, which is kind of my level of expertise, how did you come up with the packaging? Because like I said, I'm just showing a box. This is kind of different from your traditional packaging. How did you come up with that idea? Was that given to you, or is that something that came to you overnight, or how did the packaging come up? How did you come up with the packaging for things? Even like the cookies themselves that are individually packaged, and it's having a logo and that sticker on there. That's pretty cool. So how did you come up with the packaging for things?
I guess I just kind of think of things of how, if I was receiving this, how would I want to feel, So if you're from getting the package, what would make me feel special about this?
Okay.
How I think about it. So it's like, if it's wrapped nicely, you know what? I treat it the same way I do when I've cooked and I've served people. It's the same thing. You eat with. I look at it like you eat in several ways. You eat first with your senses, your sense of smell. You eat with your eyes. You do all these different things before you even actually taste it. And so, so if someone they see the package, you're gonna feel like you're getting something special, even though you are. But now you feel like you see it. Sometimes what I actually do is, so I use like a lot of parchment paper, and you have to package it. Put a lot of stuff in there to keep it up. So I'll throw some of the parchment paper in there, and so we open it up. Sometimes it hopefully has the aroma of some of the cookies in there. So that
definitely got that. Got the aroma. Got hit with that aroma.
That. And then I'm just how does it look when you open it up? So I'm just trying to think of that. But as far as the logo and all that, just I like just keeping it simple. As you look, even my name is on the logo. The biggest thing on there says cookies.
But then it kind of going to the intellectual property part of it, and it seems like you did something that I always advocate for just earlier on. Just, hey, man, get that intellectual property trademark. And get that intellectual property protected, whether it's a patent or a copyright or a trademark. Again, this is a trademark. Yes. That you're able to protect. But so what made you was that always in the back of your head? Did somebody tell you, hey man, make sure you protect your logo or your name? I guess how did like that come to be? Because a lot of times, at least kind of how I was growing up prior to me becoming an IP attorney, a lot of people don't know about intellectual property, the power of it and whatnot, and how to go about protecting it. So was that something that you already knew about? Did you have to seek out from counsel, from Google, or how did you come up with like, okay, I need to protect this thing and I can protect it by way of a trademark?
I didn't know anything about that. I just wanted to make some cookies and and use my name, let people know what it was. But as far as I think I saw a podcast like yours where people were talking about things that you needed to do and why you needed to do it, because sometimes, unfortunately, I'll say this even myself, we can be a little naive. Like I can be, I'm very trusting, and I hear people or things happen to people that you would think would never happen.
Yeah.
And so I think I heard a story one time on a podcast where it was like, oh, this person didn't actually protect their information. And so someone was able to, legally steal that. So anyway.
Now, and I hear those stories all the time, unfortunately, as an IP attorney. And just even, I know this seems like this is just you, but I also hear the story of, okay, it's 3 people in a company and the trademark is, I mean, I've gotten calls that I had to kind of give the bad news where it's 3 people in a company and the trademark is owned not by the company, but owned by this one person. And then that relationship breaks up. And now, the other 2 people are calling me like, hey, can we use this? I'm like, you don't own it. It would have been better for you guys to put it in a business name so that if you guys were no longer partners, you still had rights to the mark. But unless you guys kind of decided to, okay, maybe made a business decision as far as who's going to get the mark, and maybe that came with some costs or whatever the case may be. But since this other guy owns the mark, you other 2 cannot do anything about it, and just had to tell them, hey, you guys have to rebrand or else, man, you can use the mark, but you're likely going to get sued by your former partner. So, and them are the horror stories that is like, hey, man, just have this stuff buttoned up or kind of did the right way on the front end so that, I mean, obviously things will still come up, but it's still measures that you can put forth to protect yourself on the front end of things. So, that's my goal here with the podcast as far as kind of letting people think, because what they say, a lot of these companies are a lot of, in the U.S., you have the small businesses and they have logos or they have products or they have some type of trade secret, and it's like, hey, man, let's take measures to protect this stuff so that you're not kind of finding yourself in one of these situations down the line sometime, because we all know things happen in business, whether partners fall out or whatever the case may be.
I would say also, as I think back, one of the things that actually really made me move on that was I started thinking from the end. So I started thinking, where did I want to be? Yeah. Whenever that time period is, and then start working backwards. And so as I thought about that, and then I did listen to some stories. That's what I like. Oh, I need to have these things in place now. I need to invest in these these legal trademarks, and making sure that I'm all set now before it's too late.
And again, I love that, and I think I was telling you over the phone last week that Big B Coffee, which I had the co-founder on the podcast and several months ago, and they do $250 million in annual revenue. So this is not a small company by any means. And the way he even has it is, hey, he has 2 companies: an operating company that sells the coffee, and then another company that owns a trademark. And the operating company pays, I think 10% a year to the company that owns a trademark, company that owns the trademarks. There's a lot of different trademarks that he has, and therefore it kind of gives even more credibility to the value of the trademark, because you have that operating company paying the company that owns the IP. So again, just that level of sophistication, like you said, just being able to think about on the front end, so that kind of you're putting yourself in a good situation in case you want to sell it, or in case you want to get a loan against the trademark. The trademark, this IP is valuable to the extent that you can get loans against it, depending on the value of it, and just being able to kind of get those things set up on the front end, like you talked about, is extremely important, so that you're not kind of trying to fix things or figure things out later down the line once things really get to pumping.
Right. There's going to be plenty of other things that are going to come up, but try to at least get some of those things I know off the way.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I like that. So then you said you had a chef background, and for me, and maybe I'm a novice on this topic, but I would imagine that some chefs, they're good at making a particular thing, or just entrees, or just kind of food in general, but maybe not so much cookies. So I guess as a chef, how did that help you, or maybe not help you, with regard to the cookies? And maybe another question, the second part of that question is, I guess, what inspired you to actually start Kartez Cookie, the cookie company? Because again, I understand that you are still a chef, and that's a big part of what you do. Then we talked about the cookie products, and it seems like that's maybe a separate thing, a separate enough thing to the point where it was like, okay, something had to happen, or maybe something happened. Okay, I'm gonna start a cookie company, and so I guess, how did all that come about?
Let's see, the chef. Let's see, and the cookies. I'm be honest. Even personally, I've been to a lot of friends' restaurants and some restaurants. Usually, chefs don't make good desserts.
Right. No, I would imagine that they don't. So it seems like it isn't like, okay, I'm a patent attorney, so it's easier to do trademarks because it's all within the same wheelhouse. But right. It seems like maybe chef and desserts they're food, but they're in exactly.
Chef's dessert. It's usually you usually have the access. It's a dessert. So So like a chef's dessert is like creme brulee.
Gotcha. Okay.
And some people can make it okay. I'm just not a big fan. It's just burnt sugar and cream. I mean, not so much creativity there, but I know a lot of chefs gonna be mad at me. But anyway, I think for me though, I grew up cooking and baking with family and a lot with my grandmother. So like culinary school teaches you the basics, but they don't teach you how to really. That creativity is something else. Sometimes either you have it or something you really need to get up under somebody and learn.
Gotcha.
And so how that contributed to cookies. Just I was able to take different aspects, like I said, being able to know that taste and in like in a culinary school, they used to always ask me, "What does this need? Come over here and taste this." So same thing with coming up with something different with the cookies. I was able to try to experiment and figure out what you go into it, not just your average butter and sugar and vanilla. So just being able to come up with something a little more creative. How did I start? I actually started a while ago. I was in a situation where I needed some extra money.
Gotcha.
and I thought and I actually was at this company and somebody was already selling something. There's one lady who was already selling every 2 weeks cakes. They just called her the cake lady. She was really smart. She sold on payday every 2 weeks. So
hey, that's a good idea. If you're gonna sell when they got the money.
She knew when they got the money. That's when she brought her product. And then and there was another guy who sold rib weights. And so same thing. And so I thought, well, I got these cookies. Let me bring some. So I'll bring a cookie. And at one point, I brought this. They said, yeah, that's pretty good. I felt like I don't want to say that online, but I felt like let's just say I felt like a dealer who was, like,
right.
I was giving out free samples and see what people like. And they're like, yeah, I like that, but go ahead and give me some more of that. And so, and then people say, you know what? I like these. So you got any chocolate chip or you got any one with M&Ms, and you just try different things out. And next thing you know, I was just selling them back then in a little plastic baggie for $1. And I remember one time I sold like 900 of them for like
really
in 1 week, and I was like, man, this is getting crazy. And so, one thing led to another. I think where I was, people kind of turned the eye, like management didn't care because they bought cookies too, but
right.
And rib plates and cakes.
Yeah, and I was going to ask about that because it seems like it could go one or two ways in terms of the company or the business kind of trying to block you or trying, cock block is what we say.
Yeah.
Say, hey, man, hey, we're buying them too, so we don't care as long as you're not doing anything illegal and everything.
The only thing they didn't like is like they had vending machines there, and so I think some lady brought in stuff like chips and sodas, and they were like, "You can't do that." And then so she was like, well, "They're doing this," and then so they
that one person, man.
They reluctantly had to shut everything down. There were a lot of managers like, because they were really mad. So I'm making cookie deals in the parking lot.
Oh yeah, I see why you said you felt like a dealer at that point.
Yeah, I'm making cookie deals in the parking lot. It's just weird. You was like, you got the cookies, I got this, you got the money. But anyway, so I had to go legit, start, get an actual business license and run a kitchen and all this other kind of stuff.
No, nice. So, and I was going to ask you, what do you think was like the biggest breakthrough? Because again, you talk about maybe selling cookies at the old company and selling 900 cookies. I think you said in a month, which is
it was in a week. Yeah, it was
in a week. I'm sorry, in a week, which is crazy. That's even crazier to sell 900 cookies in a week, just as somebody who's kind of coming to the job and handing out cookies. But it seems like these days, just kind of looking at in preparation to this interview. Obviously, you have content creators such as Anton Daniel shouting out the cookie, and you got the social media. I was looking at a show that you had you were recently on a morning news show.
Oh yeah,
that locally it seems like. So what would you say is probably the biggest breakthrough, or all those things good for the business as it relates to kind of pushing it out and pushing, advertising and marketing? Because it seems like, from my understanding and from talking to different people, they said that those organic and natural ways of kind of getting things out there a lot of times are better than the paid commercials or the paid advertisements. So, and I'm not sure if you kind of can speak on that as well.
I agree. I think I focus on making my product good, and it kind of speaks for itself. So just like anything else, you know, if something's good, if you had a bad mic and then you have a good mic, you're gonna probably tell somebody else about it when they need one. And that's the same thing. I focus on making it good, making it a good experience. So, and then I think the rest of itself, people talk. It's like at the TV station. I didn't call them; they called me.
Nice.
And I'm trying to like, how did they know about me? Somebody gave me some cookies. So, yeah, I think even back then, the same thing is like, you know, people word spread. Somebody was eating a cookie and it's like, oh, where'd you get that from? And they gave him one, or gave him a piece. Probably that's usually what they said. And then somebody's like, oh, let me get some of that. And so word spread, and people, you know, had a call. And then, like I said, it just kind of it's a good rumor. That good rumor spread around.
No, I got that. So then, I guess, what were some, and actually I do want to speak towards this, because again, selling 900 cookies in a week, and a lot of people would have said, man, you know what, I'm quitting everything. I'm about to start a cookie company. Obviously, you started a cookie company, or started a company that sells cookies, but you didn't necessarily take the route of, I'm going to quit my day job. And even now, you're still working as a chef, doing different things while you have Kartez cookies, and looking to grow that. And I think this is important, and think it's a good idea as far as just not quitting everything and going all in, but just if you're going to do it, make it a slower transition. Was that always something that you was that something that you thought about, or is it just kind of naturally happen that way as far as, hey, man, I'm not going to quit the day job, or maybe the day job kind of helps out Kartez cookies? How did you kind of go through that process as you were kind of building Kartez cookies up?
It seems like a common sense thing to me, you know. You have the transition, you know. Kartez cookies has to be paying a lot more people and myself completely before, you know. And then even then, you know, one of the things I like to do, and I've reached out and talked to a lot of people who are where I want to be and understanding their journeys, and so a lot of them didn't just jump ship, or they got to a certain threshold, and then from there they maybe had some different funding in which they were able to just transition. But no, that just seems like a common sense thing to me. You got to make sure that it can sustain itself before it can sustain me.
Oh yeah, for sure. And again, like, I would agree with it. It definitely seems like a common sense thing. I know sometimes that maybe not always the case with, especially say content creation, where people's like, okay, man, you hearing about the money that people's making? They're like, hey, man, I'm going to quit whatever it is I'm doing and go full time into this thing. And I remember even back when Fortune High Tech Marketing was like a very big thing, and I heard of like attorneys, like, and I mean, I was in undergrad at this point, but I heard like practicing attorneys who have been practicing for a number of years, kind of close up shop to try to go into the Fortune High Tech Marketing. That ordeal there, which obviously we know it's not really around anymore, but you think like, man, that's crazy for you to kind of pack everything in and say, I'm going all in on this thing that it isn't even proven out, or, you know, we're definitely proving that it's going to be around, at least for you particularly, over the next 5, 10, 15 years. So it seems like what they say, things that are common sense are not as common to a lot of folks. So that's interesting. So then I guess, what's the goal moving forward with everything? I know we talked a little bit about things, and it seems like for me, from a restaurant standpoint, it seems like franchises is like, it just kind of makes sense in terms of maximizing that opportunity of money making, as opposed to just kind of selling cookies or just online or out of a brick and mortar spot. Maybe you don't think about it as that. So what are some of the goals going forward with Kartez cookies?
Yeah, so some of the goals is, I would like to build up into something more like a brick and mortar. You know, right now I just rent space and I'm online.
Okay.
I wouldn't mind doing a brick and mortar, like I said, as it builds up. However, long term, also one of the things I'm working on actually in the background is getting a cookie dough into a grocery store.
Nice.
So,
I like that, actually. I didn't think about that, but I actually like that idea.
Yeah, actually I remember one. Yeah, it's a long story, but like, even when I go home and I have to see my mom, like for Mother's Day or something like that, she always has me make her a huge bag of her favorite, which is the oatmeal with golden raisins and cranberries cookies, and she has me, package it up, and that way she could basically have a cookie or 2 or 3 when she wants. She'll keep that for like almost a year.
Really?
Because it's just her and my dad, so
okay.
she's like. Yeah, she's like, oh yeah, I just had me a couple of cookies the other day. I'm like, that was like 7 months ago. She's like, yep, it's just me taking my time. So you know, that's also a good way to scale where I can get some more out there. And it's one of those things where I know when people, if you had a Kartez cookie, it's great, but if you had one right up the oven, it's phenomenal.
I would imagine, yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely would imagine that. So you're saying the cookie doughs and a brick and mortar at some point, as opposed to kind of leasing a space or renting a space, is that those probably kind of some more the intermediate goals, at least that you consider, or do you have any others? Would you like to, I guess, maybe franchise at some point if that opportunity came about once kind of things really grow?
Yeah, that's something I wouldn't be opposed to. I'll just have to, vet that process out. I'm not familiar with it. I've seen it. I've been to some other places out of curiosity. Like I think it was funny. I actually went to I'm not gonna say that anymore. I stopped at a cookie place. I was just curious, and I was like, oh, let me see what their cookies taste like. And I think I heard him as I walked. It's like, that's that guy. He was like, I was just curious, and their cookies were good. I'm not gonna say as good as mine, but they were good.
And that was a franchise as well, you saying?
Yeah, that was a franchise. So,
okay.
I would have to vet out, how do you consistently, I suppose in that situation, you really need to embed yourself in the local market.
For sure. And then, obviously, the systems and the processes will be a big part of that. Because I know I go to some franchises now, and sometimes it's like, man, this is not like how they do it down the street or in this city over here. It's like, man, this is
systems in place. It's like for Mother's Day coming up, I'll be really, really busy for that. And one of the things I have to do each time, so I don't hire people consistently, but for big events like that, I have to hire people, and I have to go through a system with them, and just, hey, this is how this goes, because if not, people are going to do things how they think they should do things.
Right, everybody wants that consistency
each time. So yeah, I know that from hard lessons learned. I think Valentine's Day a year or so ago, I had to refund some money because somebody, I didn't have a good system in place, and they sent something up, so it was my fault. So I said, never again.
Got you. And that makes sense. People want that consistency, and I guess if I get a bad drink or a bad food product, then I'll just kind of chalk it up to the game. I guess I'm not that I guess pressed about it to terms to kind of call corporate or whatever and say I need my money back.
That's why you go to a franchise, because you want that consistent experience.
Yeah, sure.
Absolutely. All of us.
Yep. No, absolutely. I definitely agree with that. So then I guess, man, just kind of closing out here, a couple of last questions. What advice would you give to, and maybe before I say this, I would like to say, and maybe you're doing this already with the systems and the process, especially as you're kind of hiring different folks for these holidays or more seasonal things. Do you write this stuff down as far as, hey, man, this is the system that we have? Because that can definitely obviously go a long way once you start to kind of, if and when you start to do the franchises, that you already kind of have this set of guidelines that people need and can follow, as opposed to having to kind of come up with them at that point in time.
Yeah. So same thing. Like I have a catering event coming up pretty soon, and the same thing. I have people. I have those instructions printed out, and in some cases, I actually put pictures on there of what they need to do.
Yeah, right. The more the better.
Oh yeah, the more the better. Very detailed. That way, they can see and know what the instructions are and how and what the end result should be. Because again, I learned the hard way. Now I just make sure that it's simplicity.
Yeah. I like that. So then I guess maybe going back to the other question, what advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs? Because again, the entrepreneurial or the kind of the business game can be daunting to a lot of people. And obviously you have gotten off to a great start protecting the IP and kind of getting a product that people love and enjoy. And it seems like even maybe have a way in which people, you can look to grow things as far as the cookie doughs and people buying it for other people that they're doing business with, or they just know, and kind of growing that audience that way. So it seems like you have done a lot of things right, especially as you're looking to grow things. So what advice can you give to the other entrepreneurs? Because we haven't talked about it in this video, but I would imagine that you have some up and down days because it's business, and you do have the ups and the downs. It's not always just up. So I guess going through everything that you have gone through at this point in time, what advice can you give to aspiring entrepreneurs who are looking to kind of jump into the game?
I can tell you, I think what's helped me the most is I've listened to people and read some books of people who've already been to where I want to, or been in the space to where I would like to get to. And I've been able to apply some of those things. So one of the main things I've been able to apply, something I mentioned earlier, is I wrote down the vision of where do I want to be, and then I start working my way back. And so like one of the things I said to myself was like, okay, a person that has if I did have a franchise, or if I was selling cookie dough in all the stores in the United States, what type of systems does this person have in place? What type of tracking systems? Who am I talking to? Who am I getting mentored by? And basically by working backwards, I'm just looking at all the things I'm looking at now is I can align it up. Is this in alignment to where I'm trying to go? Gotcha. So I'm not just running around in a hamster wheel in a circle.
And I like that. So like you said, you're not just doing stuff for the sake of doing it, but does this further the ultimate goal that I kind of set out for myself at the beginning? So I definitely like that, and that makes perfect sense. So I guess maybe the last question, how can people follow you personally as well, whether it's on social media, email, whatever the case may be, but also how can people purchase the product more importantly?
Oh, yeah. It's cartezcookies.com. That's simple as that. That's pretty much the only place you can go right now. However, then I'm on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok for how long is there. And but I'm on those social media platforms and just usually just posting things that whatever I've got going on or just stuff about cookies. But that's where you can go right now. And I'll also I get a lot of quotes for people, especially a lot lately, especially with these games going on. But I get a lot of quotes for different things if there's something on the site that you need something different.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And I guess can they make a quote or can they get a quote through the website or?
Just go to the website. There's a feature. Just hit the quote, and basically it's just a text field. Just tell me what you're looking for, and usually I can send them a quote for what they're looking for.
Nice.
And when and where and how.
Oh, for sure. And then just to kind of make this clear, I know sometimes people kind of take orders through IG or whatever the case may be. I'm not sure if that's something that you do, or is obviously you got the website. But if people go through, say, a DM on a IG, is that something that you kind of even respond to as relates to a call, or do you just direct them to the website, which obviously is
I've actually got some orders through the but I'm actually working on getting the connecting to IG. So because I've been getting a lot of requests.
Nice.
Yeah, a lot of requests DM me asking me where can I buy your cookies. So a lot of times I'll send it to the website, but sometimes depending on what they're asking for, I've actually sent them. I have a feature on my site where I can send them a quote and ability to pay.
Nice. Well, hey, definitely, audience members, go get the cookies. Like I said, I have mine, and at least from the one I had yesterday, that thing was one of the better cookies I had over the course of my life. And then also Mother's Day, I know you brought it up. Mother's Day is coming up in May, so please kind of order the cookies. Get your cookies for your mom, for your sister, or for your daughter, for your loved ones. Hey, I wouldn't even say I know Easter is this weekend, but hey, it's okay if they get some cookies late. It's better late than never. So if you want to order some Easter cookies for the loved ones, by all means, go to cartezcookies.com. I think is the website, and order those cookies. I'll definitely, once the video comes up or the interview comes out, I will put the card in all your IG and your social media as well as the website, so people can kind of go order cookies that way, or at least get a quote if that's something that they're interested in. Well, I guess maybe that's all I had for you. Again, appreciate you coming on, and I definitely be in contact, and I definitely would love to have you on in the next 6 months or so, a year or so, and kind of see where you're at, because that protein cookie, I'm very interested in that one, and I know that you'll be doing some great things. Hopefully, get the cookie doughs in the stores and kind of get that going as well. So, audience, go check them out. Cookies are amazing, and again, he's building this thing from the ground up and has made some good headway. So, until next time, audience, take care.